What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be going over the nightmare matchups for every UFC champion. So, as you can see on the screen here for flyweight, I think Manel Cap is the nightmare matchup for Alexandre Pantoja. I think that Cap's striking is better than Pantoja's. I think he can hang in the grappling. I think he'll be able to keep it on the feet. And their first fight was competitive. Pantoja did outstrike him, but I think Cap is a lot better now. And in the Royval fight, Pantoja's Royval fight, the second one at 296, there were a lot of moments where Royval would have him hurt, but he wouldn't really capitalize on it. And I think that a guy like Cap, if he has you hurt like that, he will capitalize on it. So that is what I think about this matchup. I think it'd be a great fight, and if I had to give a prediction, I do think that Manel Cap would win a decision. I think that he would just have big moments where he would rock Pantoja, and I think he would be outstriking him. I think Pantoja would have trouble getting him down to the ground, and I think it is a very bad matchup for Pantoja. But on to the next division, bantamweights. I think the nightmare matchup for Sean O'Malley is Corey Sandhagen. Now, some of you guys watching might be like, what about Marab? I think Sean O'Malley would KO Marab. Marab is very open on the feet, and I think Sean O'Malley's movement would be a big issue. His kicks would be a big issue. He'd be able to keep the distance, and O'Malley has a lot of power. So I think he could crack Marab. I think he could finish him. I think he'd catch Marab coming in similar to how he did against Aljo because Marab does overextend a lot. And Marab is also open to left hooks, so I could see O'Malley catching him with that. And I think Sandhagen, I think he can compete with O'Malley on the feet. And later, or not later on, recently he's been adding more grappling into his game. I think he'd be shooting takedowns. I think he'd be clinching a lot. I think he would just outpoint O'Malley. I could see O'Malley's leg kicks being an issue for Sandhagen, and I do think O'Malley could even present some issues off his back if it gets there. But I do think Sandhagen, I think it's a 60-40 matchup in favor of Sandhagen. I think Sandhagen would just be outpointing him the whole time, just slightly. I do think it's a very competitive fight, and I do want to see it. But I do think that Corey Sandhagen is the nightmare matchup for Sean O'Malley. So, on to the next division, we got featherweight. Ilya Topuria, I think that the nightmare matchup for him is Max Holloway, but I really don't think that Max would beat him. I don't think anybody at featherweight beats Topuria right now. I think Max would put up the best fight, though. I think that he'd be mixing in a lot of kicks. I think that would work well. I think that he has a slight reach advantage. Maybe not. Max does have his arms aren't the longest, but I think as time has gone on, Max has kind of went from being like a slugger, taking a lot of damage, getting in brawls, to fighting more technically. He's a very good technical boxer. I think that he would be mixing in head kicks like he did against Volkanovski in the second fight. I think that could be an issue. But overall, I think Topuria would fold Max with body shots because it doesn't matter how tough your chin is. Body shots can finish somebody with a granite chin. And Topuria has the best body shots maybe in the UFC. So I don't think this fight would be all that competitive, especially if Max loses to Gaethje and goes back down to 145. But if Max wins, I would like to see this fight, but if he wins, he'll probably stay at 155. So it's a shame that we'll never get to see this fight because I think it would be great. I'd be really interested to see the outcome, and I do think Topuria would win this one. So I got to side with the champ on this one. On to lightweights. We've already seen this fight. I don't think anybody at 155 is beating Makhachev right now either. Makhachev, he is one of the best strikers at 155, and he is the best grappler. He dominated Oliveira. I think it would happen again, but it might take him till round 3 or 4 to get a submission instead of round 2. I mean, Islam Makhachev's striking defense is very good. He's got good counter shots. That's how he dropped Oliveira. Counter right hook when Oliveira threw I think it was a flying knee. But yeah, I don't think that anything changes about this fight. But the reason I say this is Islam's nightmare matchup is because it doesn't matter who you are, it is going to be tough to grapple with Charles, especially if he hasn't been rocked before you're grappling with him. And Oliveira is always dangerous on the feet. He hits like a truck. So I am interested in the rematch. I think we will see the rematch because I think Oliveira is going to beat Sarukian. And for the people that think Sarukian is Islam's nightmare matchup, I say to you, I think that's crazy. I know they had a competitive first fight. Sarukian took it on short notice, but it's been so long since then. Islam is a lot better now. I know Sarukian has improved. I think Islam has improved even more. Sarukian's boxing defense is lackluster, and Islam is a phenomenal boxer. So we will move on to the next division, welterweights. I think a lot of people will agree with me on this one. I think Shavkat is the nightmare matchup for Leon Edwards, but I do think Leon Edwards would win. I think Shavkat, I don't think he'd be able to take Edwards down. Edwards has phenomenal takedown defense. I think Edwards would keep his range. I think he'd be landing low kicks. He'd be stinging Rachmanov with jabs because Rachmanov's head movement is not the greatest. I think that when they get in the clinch, Edwards is going to be stronger. I think he's going to be landing more knees and elbows. Yeah, I think Edwards would just outpoint him like he does everybody. I think it'd be a pretty boring fight because Rachmanov wouldn't have any big moments. I think it'd be very tough for him to have big moments against Edwards. And yeah, everybody thinks I just see a lot of people saying Shavkat makes easy work of Edwards, and I couldn't disagree with you more. I think it's a very tough fight for Rachmanov, but I would be interested to see it. I think this fight will happen this year. Um, yeah, I think that Shavkat is the nightmare matchup, but I would go 60-40 in favor of Leon. I think Leon by decision is what would happen, but we will see. We will see. So we move on to middleweights. Dricus du Plessis, I think his nightmare matchup is Sean Strickland because that fight was so close. It might be the closest fight I've ever seen in my life. Um, yeah, I think because Dricus, he had a lot of issues with Sean's jab. When he was grappling, even if he could get Sean down, you can't hold Sean Strickland down. He's very good on the ground. He will get back up. When Dricus would try and close the distance, he'd be getting stung with jabs all day. And Dricus was landing some very good body kicks and just good kicks in general against Strickland. I think that was very good. But the reason I think Dricus would win the rematch is because, like we saw in the first fight, he doesn't back up, man. And his cardio is actually really good. His cardio is good. I mean, I thought it was bad going into the fight. I thought he would have to find a early KO. I think in the rematch he could find a KO because later on in that fight he was catching Sean, and I heard people complaining about a cut caused by a head clash. That's not true. There was an elbow after the head clash that actually opened up the cut. It wasn't a head clash. And yeah, I think that Dricus would win again. I think he could do even better. I might even go with him to KO Sean Strickland in the rematch. I think Sean Strickland's style isn't really good for rematches because he doesn't change up a lot. What he does works very well against everybody he fights. It's like a similar game plan for everybody, and his defense is just amazing. So it's very hard to put him away. And if this fight were to happen again, I think I would go Dricus by decision. Even though I did say he could find a KO, I don't think it would happen. I think Strickland's defense is just too good. But I think Dricus would be landing more on the feet. I think he'd be landing bigger shots. I think he'd be landing good body kicks, good leg kicks. I think he'd be putting more pressure on Strickland than he did because he was not very successful at all in the first 2 rounds of that fight. well, maybe not round two, but he wasn't successful in round one. I think it would change this time. I think he might even win a 50-45 decision by just outworking Strickland. I mean, he knows Strickland's going to try and jab him. I think he would mix in more grappling. Even if it doesn't work, he might be able to hold Strickland against the cage a little bit. I really want to see this fight again. It was a fantastic fight, and I feel like these are the two best middleweights in the world, undeniably. And we need a rematch to see who's number one. We need a definitive answer. So, yeah, that's what I think the nightmare matchup for Jerkis is. I think it is Strickland. And we will move on to light heavyweights. Alex Pereira, this one's pretty obvious. His nightmare matchup is Magomed Ankalaev. But I also think that I think Ankalaev would have a lot of trouble against Pereira because of one thing, it's the low kicks. I mean, Pereira would be lighting his legs up, but I think Magomed's pressure is very impressive. In his last fight, he was backing up Johnny Walker a lot. He was eating a lot of low kicks, and you can't eat those same kind of low kicks from Walker. I mean, you can eat the low kicks from Walker, you can't eat them from Pereira. It's totally different. Pereira would mess his leg up, but I also think that Ankalaev could chin Pereira just by backing him up, landing a big shot like he did against Walker. Because Ankalaev has really good power, he's got good boxing, and obviously the grappling. I think that because Pereira, he'd be on the back foot the whole fight, I think that eventually he'd throw a kick, Magomed would catch it, and he might go in for a single leg or he might trip Pereira. He's going to get Pereira against the cage. I wouldn't be surprised if he clinched and then he took him down. But I think once he gets on the ground, even if Pereira is able to survive, Magomed is just going to dominate him there, and he's not going to be able to get back up. So I think Magomed is the nightmare matchup for Pereira. And I really do want to see this fight, but I think Pereira might lose the hill. So we might never get to see this, but we will move on to heavyweights. So both these guys are each other's nightmare matchup. I think that Jones would lose this fight. I think Aspinall is the guy to beat Jones. I think his speed is too much. I think his strength is too much. I don't see Jones taking him down. Jones is coming off a bad injury. He's older. He's not in his prime anymore. I think within the first 2 minutes, Aspinall would lay him out cold. People are going to call me crazy for that. I know everybody's the guy to beat Jones. You know, Jones undefeated. Nobody's ever beaten him. But I do think that he would not be able to take Aspinall down, and he can't hurt Aspinall on the feet. He doesn't have power like that. His striking in the Gane fight was so goofy. There was almost no striking, but just the way he was moving around. He even said it himself. He felt kind of weird because, you know, it was his first fight in a while. And I think Aspinall would chin him. I don't think Jones's boxing defense is not great. He just kind of reaches his arms out like this, and that's why he gets all the eye pokes. And I think Aspinall would rush in with a 1-2 and lay him out cold because Jones has never been hit by anybody who hits like Aspinall. But yeah, those are the nightmare matchups for each UFC champion. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you think one of my nightmare matchups is wrong, let me know in the comments. Let me know why. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed. I will be talking to you guys later.